Hello everybody, this is Colin with BlocksmithXR and welcome back to the Learning with Blocksmith series. This is where I'm taking on some of these challenge day projects and we'll be starting a new one today. I'll delve into that in just a second. But first off, if you haven't joined us before, BlocksmithXR allows you to create your own 3D games and experiences that can be viewed across a wide range of devices, including virtual reality. So anything you make using the BlocksmithXR builder can then be easily seen in virtual reality with just a quick upload and a save. We'll show you some of the really cool things involving nested animations and some broadcast event abilities, and even a little hinge object in the stream today. Those are some of the new concepts that we'll be teaching. But if you actually want to learn on your own, kind of on your own time, instead of watching YouTube videos, the builder has a great built-in tool that allows you to quickly and easily learn how to use the builder in a fun manner too. You just build games and projects and you're able to kind of learn how to use the builder with that tool inside. So just check out the description and you'll see how to use the builder as a learning tool instead of just watching those YouTube videos. All right, so about the challenge today that I'll be taking on, it is the Build a Bird challenge, and this one I have quite a bit of practice at because one of the, in fact, one of the lessons that I was just mentioning earlier, you actually are challenged to build a little replica of a farm animal, and I'll be taking that on, but I'll take a twist near the end so you can kind of see what one of those chapters would look like, but then we'll kind of bring in some new abilities. Like that broadcast thing that I mentioned, so we can do some new fun stuff with those models. Okay, so I'm just going to start instead of actually starting with a blank scene that I build up like I've done in the past. I'll use a pre-made template, and since I'm going to be building a bird, I'm going to use my farm template here as my scene surroundings. All right, one thing that I'm just going to note right off the bat is that I'll be using the low poly art style because I think that'll work well with the kind of concept I have for modeling the bird. I'm going to do a low poly model of the bird, and so I'm going to have my scene settings reflect that. So that basically means that my materials are going to be a little bit different looking, and you'll be able to see some low poly things like rocks. Okay, so my first step with the animal creation, or my building a bird project, is just to start with the body of my bird. So I'm going to use a basic sphere to do that. And I'll shrink this down a little bit. So I'm going to hold down my shift key and I'm going to proportionally scale, so kind of shrink all at the same time, this sphere to be kind of this main, like I said, body of my bird. And I'll try out a couple of materials here to see what they look like. I know it says snake skin, but that pattern could look pretty well for like the feathers on a bird, but I kind of like this one too. So let me change around what that looks like, and I'm actually going to decrease the zoom even further, maybe not quite that much, but right about there. I think that looks pretty good. And that'll be like some little chest feathers for my bird. And I'll be, just so you know, I'll be designing a basic little chicken here. But one of the things that I really want to emphasize is how you can create nested animations on objects. So my whole chicken will be totally animated, and I'll show you how you can start that. All right, so I'm going to duplicate my main kind of body sphere there, and I'll just rename this to we'll call it bird body. All right, now I'm going to just create a little like comb of feathers for the tail of my chicken, and I'll have those be kind of skinny, but I'll do a couple of them right around there. And I want these to be rotated rather than just vertical, so it kind of looks like the birds coming, or feathers coming off the tail of the bird. And I'll just add a few of those on there really quick. Changing color, once again going for that variation to make things look good. And I'll rotate those a little bit more so it looks like it's coming out the back. Okay. Now I'm just going to add a couple of little basic wings on the side of my bird. So once again, I'll just use my main body and I'll create a very simple looking wing. Let's do a little white wing tip. I'll do a little white wing tip right down here. Just a little note, if you ever want to build like a little tip on something, a great way to do that is to just duplicate the exact same object, move it down just a tad. So I just moved it down just a little bit, change the color, and then now you can just kind of figure out how much you want to be shown. So I just want that tiny little part at the bottom to be white. So I'm just going to use that option to hook it up. Okay, so there's one of my wings. And before I duplicate my wing to the other side, I'm going to use a new object. This object, called the hinge point, was introduced. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit because it's a little too big for my purposes right now. The hinge object was introduced in 5.0, and it is really great because it allows you to hinge or create hinge points without using snap points. So in the past, you could only create like a hinge, like a door hinge, by using snap points. But this hinge object allows you to do things much easier. So all I have to do, I don't have to enable snap points. I don't have to get any special settings. All I need to do is just click on the object. I need to find what I want to hinge. Click on my bird wing there. And now whenever I rotate this, it will kind of pivot around that hinge point like I talked about. And I'm actually going to move that in just a tad there, so it kind of looks like the wing is a little bit more connected. All right, and now that I have my little hinge point there, I can actually create my first animation on my chicken. I know it doesn't look too much like a chicken right now, but bear with me, it will. In fact, I'm going to group these. Oh, I accidentally duplicated, but you know what? I'll just use the duplicate for a little bit more detail on my chicken. Okay, there we go. That looks like some good tail feathers. I'll group those together, call these, not talk, there we go, tail feathers. All right, now I can focus on my wing animation, and I'll just have this one be a simple flapping animation, so just up and down. However, the important part are my animation settings. So I want this bird to be fully animated, so flapping around, maybe moving its head, having it move its legs like it's jumping around. So what I'll want to do with my animations then is make sure that they're all synced up. I don't want one leg kind of moving while it's also flapping and having it all be kind of discombobulated. So instead I'm going to have all the animations kind of be synced up together a little bit, and then have them loop as well. So instead of just flapping once, I'll have them continuously flap back and forth. And the way that I can get all of the body parts animated are or what I talked about earlier, and those nested animations. So I'm going to lower this to about 0.6 seconds. So that should be, faster than the normal animation. And I'll also have this ease out. I'm using ease out, and that's basically like decelerate, because that kind of provides a smoother animation style with the end result than just a normal, back and forth animation, which has no acceleration whatsoever. Okay, now that I have my animated wing and my hinge point connected, I'm going to group those together. I will call this, so this is the back of my bird, or from the bird's perspective, so I'll call this left wing. Left wing, and like I said, I'll duplicate it, spin it around 180 degrees, and then just try and get it to be in the similar position on the bird's right side. So I'm going to call that right wing instead because it's on its right side. And really quickly, before I continue on, I do just want to check out those animations and see what they look like. So instead of playing my viewer, I'm just going to play my scene, because that play scene button is great for previewing. All right, that looks pretty good. My hinge point might be a little far away from, actually my right one, or excuse me, my bird's left one looks good. The one on the right is a little disconnected. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it in a little bit more, move that one a little bit more, and I just don't want to see any gap. All right, looks good. I have a good flapping, wing flapping animation there. All right, so I have my first animations made. Now I want to continue on with building the parts of my bird. And I'll start with its legs now. So I'll just do some stubbly little chicken legs. There we go, just like that. And those birds do have some talons too, because one time long ago they were dinosaurs, believe it or not. And you can still kind of see it in their eyes. If you've ever looked at chicken in the eye, you can just kind of see something of the dinosaur still in them. Anyway, I'm not building a dinosaur here, I'm building a chicken. And that leg is pretty much done. So I'll group that together and just make sure that it's not too big or too small compared to the rest of my chicken. You don't want these really thick, chicken legs. All right, that looks good. So I'm going to animate it now. And I'll just have that just be a little simple up and down animation. So I'll grab my animation panel and I'll raise this chicken leg up. Looks good. So exact same settings that I had earlier, which if you remember, it's actually on the subgroup here. So it's back and forth, 0.6, and ease out. So loop back and forth, 0.6, and ease out. All right, so now that I have one leg, I can easily just duplicate it for the other leg. And with my legs made, now I can jump on, oops, I already have the body of my chicken, jump on creating the head of the chicken here. All right, so I want it to be centered, so I'm gonna use some snap points. So enable and drag the bottom snap point to align with the top point of the body. So those two are perfectly aligned now. However, I obviously don't want the chicken head to be that big, and I want it to be a little bit different colored. So I'll have that be kind of whitish gray. All right, with the head of the chicken made, I want to do just a little kind of like comb fringe. That's where, I wonder if this, no, the snake skin still looks a little weird. I'm gonna undo that change, and I'll just go to red. In fact, I'm just gonna use a regular old paint material. This will be the, those combs that you can see on chickens, the kind of weird skin that they have, the kind of wrinkly skin that they have. And that looks pretty good for the chicken's comb. Just need to make sure that it's all kind of lined up correctly. So just make sure they're all kind of in line. I could do this more precisely using my coordinate fields, but you can also always just kind of eyeball these things too if you don't need to be absolutely precise. And in this case, I don't need to be absolutely precise. So I'm going to group that together, call that comb. I'm not sure if that's actually how you spell it correctly, but I'll call it good. And I'll put a beak on my chicken. So I'll just grab a little comb there, color it yellow, and put that, after rotating, on the face of my chicken. Now that is a very humongous beak, which, I mean, it's kind of comical looking, but for this, I'll shrink it down a little bit because that's just a little too ridiculous. All right, I'm holding the Z key there. If you're curious, I'm holding the Z key so I can only drag this this beak on the Z axis. One of my favorite tools right there. Okay, so now that I have my my beak and my chicken comb, I'm going to just add in a white sphere, check its size. Okay, that looks pretty good. Duplicate it. And now shrink it down a little. Color it black because I want to do some chicken eyes. And instead of trying to get, realistic with this, I think you can tell at this point I'm going for a little bit more of a stylized, kind of cartoony looking comedy chicken. Instead of, the kind of a more realistic approach. So put some eyes on my chicken, and just for sake of fun, I'll make them a little wacky. And I'll group those eyes together and rename my group. Keep my, I really like, or think it's important to keep that hierarchy sorted correctly so you can make sense of it. Looks like my feet I should call that, because I called my wings right wing, left wing, I'll call this right foot, and there we go, left foot. All right, and now I can actually kind of finish some of my animations here. So I'll also animate the eyeballs to kind of bug out a little bit. Have that, so exact same animation settings, so 0.6, loop back and forth, and I want it to ease out. All right, let's just double check. 0.6, ease out, loop back and forth. Okay, so now my chicken should be, yeah, have some animated components there. I could even kind of move these tail feathers around too, so I'll do that a little bit. Why not? You know, kind of like it's jumping up and its tail feathers are moving up a little bit. So once again, exact same settings, back and forth, 0.6, and ease out. Okay, so I'm going to group this whole chicken together now, and I'll call this jumping chicken. No spoilers, because the next step is to make the chicken jump. All right, so we'll just raise it in the air. It's going to be well, for one thing, if you actually look at my player, that's a gigantic chicken. It's almost as tall as my player itself, but you know, I'll have a little bit of fun with it. So I'll have that chicken jump, you know, pretty high. Once again, using those exact same animation settings to keep it pretty well, you know, synced together. All those animations synced together. But basically, now I have some nested animations within an animated group. So you can see right here, my chicken group, my jumping chicken. Oh, I said chickens. There we go. Jumping chicken group itself is animated with the jumping animation. But then I have these nested animations, you know, like on my feet and elsewhere, that will also play while my chicken is jumping. So that is the idea of nested animation. So you have some kind of group that's animated, doing something, you know, jumping up and down. But you also have some components in that group that are also animated and doing their own thing. So let's see what this looks like now. Oh, I love it. Okay, in that tone, yeah, cool. All my animations are looking good. But I think what I want to do next is have the ability to have more of these chickens, because you know, if I have, even if I kind of duplicate this or something, in fact, let's take a look at what that would do. So I'm going to just create one more group here. And this one, I'm actually going to kind of make I'm going to cheat, because I'm just going to put a little invisible cube in there to make a new group. So now, once again, if I wanted, I could actually add another animation on top of this. And so I could have all these series of nested animations. However, instead of an animation, I'm going to call this navigable chicken. And that, once again, kind of hints at what I'm going to add next, which is a navigation component. Have this chicken just kind of wander around. Yeah, just like that. All right, and just to make sure that works, let's play the viewer. First time I've done it, and there we go. My chicken will kind of wander around while jumping. Wait, come back. And it has its whole free range area. So hopefully that's a happy chicken. I'm not exactly sure, but it looks pretty happy to me, I think. But yeah, before I actually create my final piece, which is to be able to spawn multiple chickens in here and kind of have them all move around, I'm going to add one final animation, which I'll add to the very top or root group of this. And I'll just have this thing kind of just go really high in the air. And I'll have it fly over the mountain somewhere like that. You know, I might even do a multi-step, you know, because why not? We have this kind of complex animation system, so I'll have it fly up into the air. Let's have it ease in, so accelerate. I'll do a new step, and I'll have this play from its current position, so wherever that thing is located. And there we go. So I won't explain too much about that right now, but we'll see what we can do with that in the future. Okay, so I have my chicken in there, and I have my all my animations on it. And I do not want this second animation to play at start. Instead, I'm going to actually change it to play at a trigger. Oops, there we go. And basically the difference between those is play at start means that, you know, all the, like I've seen with all my other animations, they'll just play whenever I start the scene. So all those animations will start playing. And then just like that, the play at trigger means that it needs to wait for something to happen. So I'm going to eventually make something, do something that will allow that animation to be played, or in other words, I will trigger that animation with some kind of event or something like that. But right now, I'm going to duplicate my chicken, and I want to add in a chicken spawner. So let's see. I don't think I have one of these, but let's just make sure. Hen house, no. House? I can just give the chickens a house. So I might need to just throw together a little hen house model. Is there anything we could really use there? I'm thinking, just instead of just having chickens just being, you know, appearing out of nowhere, being spawned from the ether, I want to have something for them to kind of come from. I could do some crates, perhaps. Some little, you know, maybe that they were shipped over in crates, which, you know, let's just pretend that those crates have some holes in them and the chickens were treated well. You know, we want to make sure we're nice to these chickens. And, oh, here's a little, it's called a box house, but that actually looks pretty good. If I just shrink that down a little bit. So once again, you know, this Blocksmith market is great because you can just kind of, you know, if you don't have something that you want, you can just look in there and grab it and see if it works for your situation. And this box house actually doesn't look, does look like it definitely could kind of be, yeah, if we just make that a little bit bigger, kind of looks like it could be part of a hen house. And that'll be good enough. Okay. Yeah, maybe like a little decrepit hen house type thing. But one with tons of chickens in it. All right, just making sure that model is a little bit more straight so it's not falling over in my scene. And I'll just reset. So this is a great new ability that I'm using all the time. Basically being able to zero any you know, rotation or scale or anything like that. You can just immediately zero it out. Very useful. Okay, I'm gonna call that my hen house. And I'll just call hen house. There we go. And I'll put my little chicken spawner. Let's do not an update. Basically, that would mean once every 60 times a second, I would have a new chicken in my scene, which that would be really interesting. I'll just say that. Okay, so I'll have it spawn an object once every second. And I might need to change the position of my spawner. I'll see in a second, but let's just try this out. So put my chicken there, and let's see. Yeah, the mountain's fine. I'll get rid of one or two of my boxes there. All right, so now I'm curious if my spawner will work. So let's test it out. I'm gonna play my viewer. And there we go. So I have chickens being spawned every second. So many chickens, woo! And they're all wandering around. This is awesome. So many chickens coming from that hen house. Man. All right. And that actually, I mean, that does touch on something that's pretty good to talk about, which is when you're spawning objects, you know, there's no limit to how many objects you can spawn. It's not like I can spawn 5 chickens, then I'm done. You can spawn as many as you want, but that means that as a game developer, you kind of have to think about how many things do I actually want to spawn, or really more importantly, how many objects can the computer that I'm going to be using, or the other people's computers that might play this game, how many can they actually deal with? So You don't want to do, you know, a million objects at once, because that's probably guaranteed to crash basically any computer out there. So when you're using those spawners, that is just an important lesson to remember. All right, but it looks like I am, oh, I almost forgot one thing. And that's the ability to trigger this kind of funky animation over here, which I'll change around just a little bit. And to do that, I'm going to use a message. So we haven't done a ton with messages in these live streams, but I must say they are, if not the most, then one of the most powerful tools within the BlocksmithXR builder's event system. You know, they allow you to, you know, allow your objects or groups to communicate with one another, you know, pass those messages and even parameters in those messages. So very, very useful. I'll just do a basic message here called fly away. And on that message, so when it basically receives this message, it's going to play that animation. Now, I need something to trigger this. So what's something that would scare chickens? Yeah, that's what I thought. We have some axes in here. We didn't have any hen houses, but we do have some axes. So that's kind of funny. This pole axe seems kind of cool. Yeah. And I'll just use this one right here. And I won't say really bad, I'll just say axe. Because the chickens know what's up. That's what I'm gonna say. All right, so I'm gonna put my axe on my my little crate right there. And basically, when I go, if my player tries to go over to my axe to pick it up, then I want the experience. So I'm going to use something a little bit new here because this is actually a new feature within the 5.4 release, which is broadcast. So this ability is really awesome, especially with the event system, because you can basically broadcast a message to everything, all the objects in a scene, but only the ones with the message of fly away will actually hear it. So this bird has the message fly away, but the birds in here do not yet. So I'm just going to go into my spawner really quick and paste that same event onto my spawner there. And just because I think I might need to raise that up a little bit, I'll do that as well. I don't want them flying into my mountain. That would be a little funny. All right, so I think I'm ready to test this. I just want to double check. My axe has my broadcast message to fly away, and my birds all are basically waiting. They have that message that will cause them to fly when they actually hear that fly away message. So let's test this out. I'm gonna play my viewer, and so my birds aren't flying away yet. That's good. Looks great. However, now when I maybe try and sneak up on them with the axe. Oh, there they go. Woo! Oh, but more chickens are back. So yeah, because I kept spawning them. So if I really wanted to, well, here, I can actually just fix that really quick. So just deactivate my spawner. Very simple step. That was pretty hilarious. So wait for some chickens to get there. And then as the chicken, I guess I'm the bad guy in this situation. So here we go. Get my axe, and then they all fly away. Perfect. Cool. So that was, I mean, it's not a full game, but you could definitely make this into a game. I really just wanted to emphasize on how you can create those nested animations, on my chicken here with its wings, with its feet and eyes, to create, some really good looking animated models. Which, I'll actually save this as a model so everyone can actually access it. So I'll call this jumping navigation chicken. Kind of explain what's going on there a little bit. Call this a farm animal. Just add some good tags in there. Call it chicken. But I also want to say it's animated. All right. And I'll save this and share it with the BlocksmithXR community. So anybody can actually use this chicken now. Okay, I'll save my project. Let's call this free range or freedom range chickens, because they eventually go for their freedom. And in my description here, I'll actually link to this live stream YouTube video. So definitely check that out when we publish it on the BlocksmithXR website. You can kind of link back and forth between the two. And I can even create a template out of all of the projects, all of my live stream projects. I'll kind of be going through and making sure that everybody else can follow along with my live streams. And you can use basically a template of all of those live streams that I'll share with the entire Blocksmith community. So if you want to take part in these challenges yourself, you can easily do that just by opening up those templates, watching the live stream, and kind of following along and doing some of those extra and kind of fun challenges like we've been doing in these live streams. All right, so I'm gonna call this view only for right now, but like I said, I'll publish some templates of my projects later. And I just wanna say thank you for watching this live stream. Please make sure to subscribe to the BlocksmithXR YouTube channel, because we'll be coming out with more live streams in the future of some more fun challenges, of some really cool actions that you may not be able to, kind of figure out or learn on your own with the builder. Some features that may be a little bit hidden. So definitely subscribe, because you'll see all of that and new releases, everything that we'll release as a company. We'll also talk about on our YouTube live stream. So if you're interested, definitely follow and subscribe. And once again, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciated having you here. Please join us next time. All right, goodbye.